It is quite clear from the above comparisons that Bhavisya Purana must have been compiled much later than the other celebrated Puranas, like the Vishnu Purana or Devi Bhagavat Purana. So much of the foreign influence, apart from Iranians' migrations, this Purana also refers about the British advent to India, clearly indicates it to have been compiled in the latter part of the 17th century AD, hence it's covering all these details. Like the Magas, even the Bajokas also appear to have migrated from Sakadvipa. They were the sun worshippers, but there are differences between them. While the Bajokas made daily offering of food, bhojana, to Surya, along with incense, garlands, and other gifts, this is not the case with the Magas. The Bajokas must study the Vedas, bathe thrice a day, pray to the sun god 5 times a day, and refuse food from a Shudra. A Bojaka must wear the sacred thread of Yanga at all times, as only when he wears it that he attains purity and receives the sun god's blessings. A Bojaka is not entitled to worship the sun god if he is not wearing the sacred thread. The Purana says that if a Bojaka gives up the sacred thread, he loses good health, and he may be deprived of having any progeny, thus he cannot attain heaven. The Purana says that the sacred thread represents all that is good in life, the godly influence, purity, noble ideas, and love for all beings. The end of the sacred thread, where the knot is tied to make it the thread of consecration, is generally called Sumeru. The 3 threads represent Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. The Purana gives the impression as though the Bojakas had come to attain a higher status than the Magas. This Purana praises the sense of devotion of the Bojaka in the superlative terms. It says that as a wife serves her husband, a pupil his preceptor, so the Bojakas serve the sun god. Just as there is no sacred text equal to the Vedas, no river equal to the holy Ganga, no yagya equal to the Ashwamedha yagya, the horse sacrifice, no pleasure equal to the birth of a son, and no god equal to the sun god, there is no devotee equal to the Bojakas before the sun god. So much so that according to this Purana, the deeds of the Bojakas should be treated as being performed by the great Surya himself. In fact, according to this Purana, the Bojakas are the most holy Brahmin, and it claims that for attaining final release, one has to attain the status of a Bojaka. A tale about the Bojakas. Swayambhu Manu had one son named Priyavarta. It was Priyavarta who built a temple dedicated to the sun god. He installed a golden idol of Lord Surya in the temple. But despite his best attempt, Priyavarta could not get a suitable priest capable of performing the ritual worship of the god at the temple. He thought as though the temple would become useless, as there was no one who would perform the worship of Lord Sun in a desired way. He grew desperate, and in his nervousness, he started praying to Lord Surya with much fervor. Pleased with his prayer, Lord Surya appeared there and said, "What boon do you seek, son?" The Lord asked, "Please grant me the boon that there may be many priests at this temple to render you a devoted worship." "Let it be so," and saying so, the sun god created 8 men out of his own body. 2 had been born from the forehead, 2 from the arms, 2 from the legs, and 2 from the rays of the sun. These 8 men were the forefathers of the Bojakas, and they were made the priests of the temple in Sakadvipa. Yet another temple was also created at the southern bank of the river Yamuna by Shambha, the grandson of Lord Krishna. Chapter 3. Education, Marriage, and Temples. The Bhavisya Purana gives vivid description of the types of education available up to the period it was compiled in. A. Education. Comparing education, gain with water, procurement, it says that a student obtains knowledge after serving his teacher, guru, faithfully, the same way we obtain water after digging a well. His completion of education is symbolized by his presents to his guru, the dakshina comprising land piece, gold, an umbrella, footwear, clothes, grain, and vegetables. Without this payment, the education is held to be incomplete. A guru is he who knows the true meaning meaning of the Gayatri, the most sacred mantra, and who devoutly follows the law, Maryada or norms, is described as the best of a guru. Moreover, it is the basic duty of a Brahmin to gain and disseminate knowledge. Hence the rule, according to this Purana, that a Brahmin who doesn't fulfill his obligation is not entitled to get a maintenance allowance from the state or by the rest of society. He who doesn't know how to keep learning is incapable of rendering true education to his pupils. It is because the current of knowledge not held strong tends to go stale and irrelevant. 1. There are 5 grades of teachers prevalent then. 1. Acharya, the top position, who is able to teach even the most secret knowledge, kalpa, rahasya of the Vedas, in short, the most learned person, literally knower of all. Upadhyaya, he who taught for earning a livelihood was an upadhyaya. 3. Guru, a teacher with capabilities to make his pupils stay with him so as to practically prepare them for life. Obviously, he is more than a teacher, as he is a teacher who provides them boarding and lodging, apart from personally instructing them in all rituals. Since it was a very important instruction for the society, it was headed generally by a rishi. 4. Ritvidya. This is one who adopts the performance of sacrifice as a profession. In modern parlance, this could be an apprentice rishi. 5. Bhataka. A student of the celebrated school run by a rishi or a competent person. Loosely, it also means a student learning Sanskrit. This term Sanskrit may also mean refinement. 6. Maha is just a term raising the degree tremendously. He who is versed in not only the existing knowledge, but also that which is either in the incipient and decadent stage. He must have the knowledge of all the scriptures, Niti Shastra, Nyaya, Darshan, as well as all the cults adored by the people of an age. Grades of payment, wages. Each one is allowed the payment commensurate with the importance of the job. Obviously, a teacher's 1 hour would be tangibly and tremendously costly than that of a working Shudra's wages for an entire day. Varata was the smallest unit of payment. It used to be the cheapest brass piece coin. 20 varatas were supposed to make 1 kakini, and a lana had 4 kakini, i.e. a panna had 80 varatas. According to the Bhavisya Purana, the cost of bricklayer per day was 2 pannas, digging a well 2 pannas, sweeping 1 varata. Each copper ware's production cost was 4 pannas of bronze, 3 pannas weaving cloth, 3 pannas wearing woolen cloth. 10 kakinis, a blacksmith's wage, was 10 kakinis, that of a barber 10 kakini. Only shaving 2 kakinis, and including haircutting was 10 kakinis, but hairdressing was decidedly a costly affair, 4 pannas. Beauty treatment for women was 1 panna a cost. A carpenter would make a whole wooden plow for 2 pannas. Planting rice was 1 panna cost, and so was the cost of planting betel nuts and chilies. Pulling a vehicle, as also perhaps of carrying a palanquin per carrier, was 1 panna, and 10 varata cost. Even small wooden bridges could be constructed in 2 pannas. A stage for any performance could have been made in 1 panna. Laying marble floors was per person 1 panna. The laundry charges were normal-sized cloth 1 panna, for bigger cloths of the woolen one half a panna more, which was also the charge of getting the normal-sized cloth urgently laundered. The Purana is very specific about having the various stages of life for girls, though it also recommends their carriage as early as possible. 1. Gauri, a girl's epithet unto 7 years of her age. 2. Nagarika, a 10-year-old girl. It also means a girl is called so between 7 and 10 years. 3. Kanya or Kanyaka, a girl up to 12 years of age. 4. Rajaswala, girls older than this age were called Rajaswala, meaning that the process of menstruating had already commenced in their case. The Purana says that the best age for one's daughter for marriage is when she is in the Gauri stage, According to it, a menstruating daughter makes the father a sinner. Marriage before puberty is strongly recommended for the girls. After menstruation, a girl was at liberty to choose her groom. Perhaps this gave rise to the custom of Swayamvara. Once a daughter attains puberty, her father couldn't force her daughter to marry any man or boy of his choice. She had the liberty of having her choice, with the culprit father bearing the cost of the ceremony. Types of marriage. Like other Puranas and standard scriptural texts, there are 8 forms of marriage which are briefly described below. 1. Brahma. A well-dressed bride adorned with all kinds of jewelry is given away in marriage to a learned bridegroom from a noble family, after the bridegroom having been especially invited for the occasion. 2. Daiva. A well-adorned wife is given in marriage to a husband of good conduct. The ceremony of wedding takes place flamboyantly in the presence of the invited guests. The priest conducts the ceremony in which the performance of the sacrifice is a must. 3. Arsha. Arsha marriage literally means traditional marriage. In it, the bride's father gives his daughter away to the bridegroom while instructing the pair to always remain together in the discharge of their religious duties. 4. Prajapatya. The bride's father gives his daughter away to the bridegroom after performing rites and donating a cow. Some versions claim the cow donation to have been a part of Vaisha's marriage. 4. Ashura. In it, the father and his relations give the daughter against the receipt of some kind of money, property, and gift. 6. Gandharva. This is an ancient equivalent of the modern love marriage. A man and a woman falling in love decide to get tied in a nuptial bond without caring for a condition or ritual whatsoever. 7. Rakshasa. A man abducting a woman and forcing her to surrender herself to his lust without any precondition. 8. Paishaka. It is only like Rakshasa marriage, with the difference that in it the man uses his tricks and deceit to forcibly possess the woman. According to this Purana, the desirable forms of marriage are Brahma, Daiva, and Arsha. It is believed that children from such union redeem their ancestors. After marriage, the woman must act like the woman of the house to make it run on the lines suggested by her husband's family. She must owe her loyalty to this family only. She must regard her husband as a god, and hence must follow his every order. Although the Purana asserts that a wife forms half of her husband's body, and hence she is Ardhangini, it nevertheless categorically says the woman should remain subservient to her husband. But since she is half of what her husband is, her neglect means destruction of the half of the house immediately. The ideal woman. Describing the symptoms and role of an ideal housewife, the Purana says that she must be awake before the stroke of dawn. Then she must tell the servants their jobs for the day. She must also supervise the work of the servants. In case the servants be not there, she must sort out the work that she must accomplish herself and assign the remaining work to various members of the house. Her primary duty is to keep her husband and other members of the house well fed. Washing of utensils, preparing and sweeping the floor of the kitchen with fresh cow dung, and keeping it thoroughly clean are some of her duties. Additionally, if she has spare time, she must assist her husband in doing outside jobs. The Purana also prescribes some don'ts for a good housewife. She should not sit alone, laugh in the company of strangers, stand at the gate, look in the direction of the main road, talk loudly, walk ahead of people, laugh rather unnecessarily and excessively, and exchange household things with her neighbors. When her husband be not at home, she shouldn't beautify herself or wear ornaments. She should venture out only when it is rather unavoidable. She must not pass her time in idle pursuits at all, and rush back as soon as the work is over. During pregnancy, she must bathe in scented water, avoid loud laughter, and stay away from undesirable people. She must not brood over petty things, and avoid being unduly anxious. Also, she must not take any risk whatever during this position. Curiously enough, the Bhavisya Purana permits divorce if either the husband or the wife is not satisfied, or if there is continuous friction between them. In case the wife may be a barren and incapable of giving her husband a male issue, the husband must wait for 8 years before taking the divorce. Also, when the divorce is granted because of marital unhappiness, the stridana, the jewelry or personal property of the woman, must be duly returned to her. Apart from from it, she is also entitled to having the subsistence allowance from her husband. The Bhavisya Purana also makes provision for a person having more than one wife. If there happens to be a co-wife, the younger wife should treat the elder one as a mother, and must take care to treat her co-wife's children as well. Not only this, whatever she gets from her own home must be offered first to the elder wife, and from her side the elder wife must accept the younger one as a daughter. The husband must not practice discrimination in such a way as to cause friction and dissension between his two wives. Planting of trees and their reward. Planting such trees as are shady redeems one's ancestors. A male issueless person must plant such a tree near a temple or a place of worship for having his desire fulfilled. In fact, the planting of a peepal tree absolves one from false karma very quickly and also makes one ensure final release if one doesn't commit sins. Planting of the Ashoka tree eliminates sorrow that may surround oneself. If one wants a good wife, he must plant a plaksha tree. The planting of a jamuna tree fills one's coffers quickly. Tenduyu plantation requires one getting a large, well-to-do fanub. If one plants a pomegranate tree, one is allowed to enjoy all sensual pleasures. Planting of bakula and vanjula eliminates one's sins. If one plants valvala, madhuka, and arjuna tree, one gets plenty of property and enjoyment of wealth. Planting of shinshipa, jayanti, and kadamba trees, one reserves a nook for oneself in heaven. Temples and icons, images. The Bhavisya Purana gives a long list of temples, the images that are to be installed in them, and what merit accrues to one by having those temples built. It says that the act of building a temple is wonderful in that it combines the punya obtained from performing a sacrifice with the punya obtained from constructing public works like wells. Those who have the temples constructed ensure for themselves a nook in heaven. Since the gods are the images that man conjures up to eke out his shortcomings, the temples are generally made in very picturesque surroundings, amidst lakes, wells, flowers, and trees, and in places where the melodious notes of birds can be heard. Hence the temple is the piece of art, and it needs to be constructed with care. That is the reason why all types of land are not suitable for building temples. Land where objects like hair, bones, coal, lime, husks, and similar objects are sound are generally rejected as sites for temples. Ground Thai accepts all kinds of seeds and is preferred. The ground that makes the sound of a cloud or drum when struck is the ideal choice. The different Varnas have their individual choice for different types of land. The Brahmins prefer the land with whitish hue, while the Kshatriya choose red earth for building temples. The Vaishya love earth with yellowish hue, and the Shudras the earth with blackish complexion. The normal procedure is testing the quality of the ground before a temple is built. To conduct this test, a pit should be dug in the earth. The pit should then be refilled with the earth that has been dug out. If the pit is filled and still there is some extra earth that is left over, then the land is held to be of superior quality. The temple can be merrily built over it. If the pit is just filled with extra earth being left over, then the land is held to be of medium quality, madhyama. Although a temple could be built over the earth, it is not the best place to do so. Similarly, the pit is dug, and if some empty space remains, then the dug earth is filled. It means that the land is of inferior quality, and hence adhama land. Therefore, the temple should not be made there. When a temple is constructed dedicated to Suryadeva, special care needs to be taken. The gate of the temple should always face the east. In case this could not be possible, then the gate should be facing the west. There should be a bathing space, some bathroom or provision for having a water source, south of the main temple. The place for worshipping the fire should be to the north. Temples dedicated to Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu should respectively be erected to the north, the east and the west of the Surya temple. It should be surrounded by the shrines dedicated to minor divinities. This whole complex of the temple is deemed one unit. It must also have a half-open space, veranda, where the Puranas could be recited to the desirous listeners. As far as offerings are concerned, they should be made from two cupolas, mandapa. While the cupola on the right should be used making the offerings at sunrise, On the left, the cupola should be reserved for making the offering at sunset. This Purana quotes the divine architect Vishwakarma to say that as many as 3,000 different kinds of structures or designs can be used for building temples. The major designs or shape of the temple constructions are the following. 1. Shadushirsha, a single-storied construction with 16 apices. Some versions of this Purana call this category Shadushara, meaning a construction with 16 sides. 2. Padma, single-story, lotus-shaped. 3. Meru, multi-storied with several apices. 4. Kailash, multi-storied with a single peak. 5. Vimanachanda, air vehicle-like with several sections. 6. Nandana, a peakless compact structure. 7. Samudra, a circular construction with no or single story. 8. Vrita, a circular construction with a single story. 9. Vrisha, a twin-storied circular construction. 10. Mrigasimba, a semicircular or octagonal-shaped construction with only one story. 11. Garuda, a bird-shaped Garuda-like structure with a little peak atop. 12. Nandi, a construction resembling a bull with two peaks symbolizing two horns. 13. Gajakundra, an elephant-like back-like construction with two protruding sections. 14. Guharaja, a construction resembling a deep cave. 15. Hansa, with an elliptical base, the construction shaped like a swan in flight. 16. Kumbhagata, with a ground plan shaped like a pot. 17. Sarvatobhadra, it is a 5-storied construction with many apices and a square base. 18. Chatusra Chatuskana, a square-based single-piece construction. 19. Astashara, an 8-sided single-story construction. Having outlined these 19 types of construction, this Purana also throws enough light on the material to be used for making the idols or images with the commensurate rewards. The most favorite idol is that of gold, Kanchana. The second choice is silver, Rajata, copper, Tamra, earth, Mritika or raw earth, stone, shale, wood, Varkshu, and of Ashtandhatu, using all the 8 natural metals which are gold, silver, copper, tin, lead, iron, zinc, and mercury. Building icons with different materials has its commensurate rewards, as this Purana declares. For example, the installation of the wooden icons grants long life and riches. The icons of clay grant pleasure in every realm. The icons that are fashioned out of jewels or precious stones grant prosperity in every way. Gold icons give the installer intrinsic strength to enjoy life for long, while the silver ones grant fame and copper ones children. Stone images grant landed property. Even for making wooden icons, the astrologers should be consulted about selecting the auspicious time for cutting the wood. It is done as a ceremony. First, the muhurta should be determined for getting the wood, and only then the carpenter should be sent to the jungles. The wood selected should be sturdy and heavy. One should therefore avoid cutting thin trees. Trees growing in temples land of cremation grounds. Generally selected wood for this purpose are Devadaru, a species of pine, Chandana, sandalwood, Bilva, rose apple, which is held to be a dear treat to Lord Shiva, Amra, mango, Nimba, neem, Panasha, jackfruit, and Raktakchandan, red sandalwood. The Purana gives detailed instructions about building an image of the sun god. It should be 84 angula, fingers' breadth, long. The face should be of 12 angulas measure. Of this, 1/3 should be accounted for by the chin of the icon. The rest should be taken up by the nose and the forehead of the image. The eyes should be of 2 angulas. Half of it should go to form the retina. The pupil must be 1/3 the size of the retina. The total measure of the face should be 32 angulas. The length of the nose and that of the neck should be identical. The arms and forearms, the legs and thighs should be of even measure. The feet should be 6 angulas long and 4 angulas broad. The nails and toes should be comparatively smaller. The eyes must be large, the lips red, and the face like a blooming lotus. The shoulders, the chest, the thighs, the eyebrows, the forehead, the nose, and the cheeks should be prominent and uplifted. the trees with only 2 branches, the trees having the decadent wood, which have dried due to age, the trees having a very brittle wood, the trees that exude honey, oil, or red fluid blood-like, should be scrupulously avoided for making a wooden icon. When the icon has been made, it should be washed in Gangajal before adorning it with jewels, earrings, garlands, crown, and a yagyopavita. A small garland made of the lotus flowers or a golden necklace should be held in the hands of the icon. All these precautions must be taken because if the image is not proportional or broken in any way, instead of bestowing favor, it might invoke the wrath of the gods. The Purana also lists the consequence of having a badly formed image. If any part of the image is larger than its prescribed dimension, the danger may threaten the entire kingdom or region. In case the organs of the image are shorter than prescribed, the region or the kingdom may be ravaged by diseases or epidemic. A larger belly threatens hunger and famine afflicting the people, but if the belly is too small, it forebodes widespread poverty. Should a belly or the image be cracked, it indicates an impending war. Should the image be slanting towards the right, the people of the region may have their lifespan reduced. On the other hand, its slant towards the left signifies marital squabbles among the people of the region. Should the eyes be slanting upwards, the builder of the image may go blind. Their downward slant threatens much financial and physical difficulties to the people. It is obvious that an image or icon of any god must be made with due precaution and care. Chapter 4. The Past, Present, and Future Dynasties. The final chapter of the Bhavisya Purana deals with the future, which distinguishes this Purana from other Puranas. It is owing to its so copiously referring about the future that it earned its name Bhavisya Purana. This part deals with future happenings. It covers such a vast span of Indian history, right from the accession of Manu to the throne to the advent of the British in India and the rule of Queen Victavati, Victoria, that it made the scholars date its compilation somewhere in the end of the 18th century AD. Although it describes the events in the future tense, it is eminently clear that most of them are coeval with its compilation. Apart from mentioning the names of the kings of the solar and lunar dynasties, it also refers about the Rajputa kings of the Middle Ages, like Prithviraj, Chauhan, and Jaichanda, but even mention about the Mlechcha rule, spearheaded by Babur, Humayun, Sher Shah, Akbar. It also mentions about Shivaji, Mahadaji, Scindia, and indirectly refers about the English words like Sunday, February, and 60. It even describes in future tense the establishment of the British rule, but it refers to all these events in a swipe as they are part of the mighty history of the current of time in the Indian peninsula, the advent of Manu and the Kali Yuga and its dynasties. Before referring to the Kali Yuga, it starts its Pratisharga Parva with the rules of Manu Vaivasvata, the subsequent generation during the Treta and Dvapara Yugas. Solar Dynasty. The Sutaji starts the narration from the advent of Vaivasvata Manu, who reigned during the last half of Brahma's age. He was followed by Ikshvaku, who ruled from Ayodhya on the banks of Saraju for 3,600 years. From Samavarana, the succession resumed the following manner. Samavarana, Archang, Suryajapi, Suryayagya, Atithya-Varadana, Dwadashtama, Diwakara, Prabhakara, Basvadatma, Vivaswaja, Haridaswarchana, Vaikartana, all of them ruled like their fathers for less than 100 years. From Vaikartana's son, Arkeshtimana, this branch continued up to Yagyaka. In this family there appeared a very great scholar named Vairachana, who eventually became the ruler of this branch. Then the lineage resumed the following way: Vairachana, Vedapravardhana, Savitra, Dhanapal, Anandavardhana. Dharmapal was a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. His son's name was Brahmeshtivardhana, Parameshti, Hiranyavardhana, Datriyaji, Dachaprapujaka, Drahinakratu, Pratansa. Pratansa's son was Pratansa, in whose 7th generation had appeared Dushyanta, who married Shakuntala, the daughter of sage Vishwamitra and Apshara Menaka. It was Dushanta's son Bharat who was the most illustrious king of this dynasty. It is after his name that Jambudvipa's part came to be called Bharatavarsha. Blessed by goddess Mahamaya, he had ruled for 36,000 years. Bharat's son was Mahabali Pratapendra, who ruled over India for 10,000 years. Then this lineage continued in the following manner: Pratapendra, Mandalika, Vijayendra, Dhanurdvipa, Hasti. It was Hasti whose son was fabled Iravata, elephant's son Gaja. Hasti established the famous city Hastinapur of Mahabharat fame. Hasti's branch had a scion called Ajamida, who had an illustrious son called Kuru. He was so powerful that, owing to a boon he received from Indra, he had gone to heaven with his mortal body intact. During this very age, in a branch of this dynasty had emerged a Satvata family, whose one scion, Vrishni, was very powerful. Blessed by Lord Narayana, he ruled for 5,000 years. Then his lineage progressed the following way: Vrishni, Nrivriti, Dashari, Vyayuna, Jimuta, Vikrata, Bimarata, Navarath, Dashrath, Shakuni, Kushum, Devaral, Devakshetra, Madhu, Navarath, Kuruvatsa, Anurath, Puruhotra, Vichitranga, Satvatavan, Yajamana, Vidurath, Shurabhakta, Tatikshelra, Svayayumbuva, Shurupala. He got a son from an Apsara, Sukeshi. His name was Kuru, who established the famous place Kurukshetra. Kuru had ruled for 12,000 years. His son's name was Janu, and then the lineage continued this way: Surathu, Vidurath, Sharvabaum, Jayasena, Arnava, Ayutayu, Akrodana, Riksha, Bhimsena, Dilip, Pratipa, Shantanu, Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya had two sons, Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Since Dhritarashtra was born blind, Pandu became the ruler, but Pandu soon expired and Dhritarashtra became the regent. Under his regency, his son, Duryodhana, had ruled for 60 years. Then Yudhishthir, the eldest Pandava, ascended to the throne, and he ruled for 50 years. After the Pandavas retired to the Himalayas, Arjuna's grandson, Parikshita, ascended to the throne. His son was Janmejaya, who was a very powerful ruler. In order to avenge his father's untimely demise, he threatened to exterminate the entire race of the serpents. His son's name was Shatanika, who ruled very ably. Then the lineage progressed the following manner: Shatanika, Yagyaduta, Nishchakra, Tadushtapal, Chitrara, Dirtiman, Shushina, Shunitha, Makpal, Nachakshu, Shukavata, Pariplava, Munash, Pripanchaya, Mridu, Tirgajoti, Bribhadratha, Vasudana, Shaktanika, Udyan, Ahira, Nimitra, Dimaka, Kshemaka. It was Kshemaka who killed all the Mlechcha and recaptured his rule following Narada's advice. Kshemaka's son was Pradyota, whose son was Vedavana, who ruled for 2,000 years. In the sub-branch of this dynasty, Vrishni, there appeared Lord Krishna, under whose guidance all rulers of Bharatavarsha had ruled. Lord Krishna's mortal age was 135 years. The Dvapara Yuga had ended with Lord Krishna's quitting his mortal coil. Then the Sutaji recounted the dynasties of the Kali Yuga. The dynasties of the Kali Yuga. Curiously enough, the Bhavisya Purana catalogues the dynasties of the Kali Yuga which had yet to happen. Although this material may also be found in other Puranas, like the Matsya Purana and Vayu Purana, all Puranas clearly trace the origin of this kind of material to the Bhavisya Purana only. The Bhavisya Purana asserts that the exit of Lord Krishna from this earth and the dawn of the Kali Yuga took place simultaneously. As is well known, a yuga or age is a very big unit. The cycle is made of 4 ages via Satya, Krita, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali Yugas. Accordingly, the general moral standard will decline with the worst human features dominating the Kali Yuga. The Bhavisya Purana says that the Kali Yuga will be an evil era. It will bring an invasion from the west of Yavanas. The Yavanas are identified with the Greeks. In this age, upstart races, declining as soon as they rise, will succeed each other in ruling the earth. But this age will see the mingling of the Aryan and the Mlechcha races. Unrighteous kings will freely kill each other. This Purana declares that it will deal with the future that follows the Mahabharat war. Given below are the dynasties that will exist in the Kali Yuga. In fact, the dynasties that reigned in North India in the period following the Mahabharat War were incorporated in couplets that were composed and set to tune. These couplets were sung by bards and minstrels in the languages called Prakrata, Magadhi, and Pali. The compiler of the Bhavisya Purana apparently appropriated these couplets, converting them into Sanskrit, and altered them to the form of prophecies believed to have been made by the sage Vyasa. The process continued not only in the period between the 3rd and 4th century AD, but also up to the advent of the British rule in India. This way, the text of this Purana kept well updated till almost the end of the 18th century AD. The Bhavisya Purana gives the following dynasties that would reign in the Kali Yuga. 1. The Parava. As we have listed the earlier rulers of the lunar dynasty, we shall start with the Janmejaya, the son of Parikshita of the Mahabharat fame. Janmejaya's son was Shatanika, whose son was chivalrous Ashwamedadutta. His son was Adishma Krishna, who reigns now in great fame. This assertion clearly suggests that the text was compiled during Adisimha Krishna's rule. Adisimha Krishna's son will be Nichakshu. It is clearly his reign that Hastinapur was flooded and carried away by the Ganga. It was during this period that Nikakshu had shifted his capital to Kashambi near modern Allahabad. He will have 8 sons of great might and valor. His eldest son will be Ushna, who will be followed by Chitrarath. He will be replaced by his son Suchidratha, whose son Vrishnimat will rule them. His son Shushena will be a righteous king. Then the lineage will continue in the following way: Shushena, Sumitha, Rucha, Nrichakshus, Sukibala, Paraplava, Sunaya, Medavin, Nripanjaya, Durva, Tigataman, Brihadratha, Vasudana, Shatanik, Udayana. Udayana will be a famous king as well as the lute player. He will be followed by Vahinara, whose son will be Dandapani. After Dandapani will rule, Niramitra and his lineage will end with Kshamaka. There will be 25 kings in this race of Puru. This Parava dynasty will reach its end in the Kali Yuga with Kshamaka. Thus, this race, which started with Arjuna, the 3rd Pandava, will hold sway over the Aryavarta for over 500 years. 2. The lineage of the Ishvakus. This is an illustrious branch of the solar dynasty, whose details before the advent of the Kali Yuga have already been given. After the beginning of the Kali Yuga, Brihadbala was ruling. His heir was the warrior king Brihatshaya. He was followed by Lirkshava. His succession was followed by Lirkshava, Vatsavyuha, Payavayum. Payavayum's son was Diwakara, who now rules in the city of Avodhya. The use of the present there indicates that this part of the Bhavisya Purana was composed during the rule of Diwakara. Diwakara's successor will be the famous Sahadeva, whose heir would be noble-natured Brihadashva. Then the lineage will continue in the following manner: Brihadashva, Bhanuratha, Pralitashva, Supratika, Merodeva, Sunakshatra, Kinarashva, the victorious, Antariksha, Suparna, Amitarajit, Brihadbrija, Dharmin, Kritanjaya, Rananjaya, Sanjaya the warrior king, Shakya, Shuddhadana. Shuddhadana is the famous king who was the father of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, who started the faith of Buddhism. Shuddhadana, Siddhartha Gautam, the enlightened one. Since he abdicated the throne, his son Rahula was installed as the king. Then the lineage resumed this way: Rahula, Prasenjit, Kshudvaka, Kulaka, Suratha, Sumrita, Sumitra, who shall be the last king of this sub-branch of the solar dynasty. All these kings will bring glory to the family owing to their erudition and able administration. This race will terminate with Sumitra. Whether they were the predictions made by the Bhavisya Purana or the mere interpolation from other sources, most of these details stand corroborated by actual historical records. 3. Brihadrathas. This was the race started by the ruler of the Magadha Kshetra. At the fag end of the Dvapara Yuga, Sahadeva, the son of the tyrant ruler Jahasandha, was ruling. Sahadeva was slain in the Kurukshetra Mahabharat war. His successor was Somadhi, who ruled from his capital in Girivraja for 58 years. In this line, Shushmutrava was the king for 64 years. Ayutayu, who succeeded him, was the ruler for 26 years. His successor, Niramitra, enjoyed the earth for 40 years before ascending to heaven. He was followed by Shukshatara, who ruled for 56 years. His successor was Brihatkarman, who reigned for 23 years. Now Senajit is ruling, who shall rule for 23 years. Then the lineage will continue the following manner. Given in the bracket are the number of years each ruler of this dynasty will rule. Shatrunjaya 40, Vibhu 28, Shuchi 58, Suvrata 64, Sunetra 35, Nivriti 58, Trinetra 28, Dridasena 48, Mahinetra 33, Suchala 32, Sunetra 40, Satyajit 83, Vishvajit 25, Ripunjaya 50. These 16 kings will be known in the future as Brihadvathas. The Purana predicts that their kingdom will last for 723 years. In all, there will be comparatively 32 insignificant rulers, and they will rule for a full 1,000 years. 4. The Pradyotas. After the Brihadrathas exit from the scene, which shall be caused by their commander Pulika revolting and coming to the saddle, Padyota, the son of Pulika, will be the king. Padyota will be able to subdue all the kings of the region, and he would act like an overlord to rule for 23 years. He will be followed by Palaka, who shall rule for 24 years. He will be succeeded by Vishkyarupa, who will rule for 50 years. Then will rule Ajaka for 21 years, and he will be succeeded by Nandavihardhana for 20 years. Thus the Padyota dynasty will rule for nearly 150 years. 5. The dynasty of Shishunagas. Displacing the Padyota, the Shishunaga will ascend to the throne. He would make Girivraja his capital city. His son will rule from Kashi. Shishunaga will rule for 40 years, and his son Kakavarna for 36 years. After Kakavarna, Shemadharman will be the king for the next 20 years, and he will be followed by Xastrojas, who shall rule for 40 years. He will be succeeded by the famous king Bimbisara, who shall rule for 28 years. His son, the renowned king Ajatshatru, will rule for 25 years. Then the Shishunaga dynasty will progress this way. Ajatashatru, Darshaka, Udayin, 33. Udayan will again shift his capital to Kushumpura on the southern bank of the river Ganga in the 4th year of his reign. He will be succeeded by Nandivardhana, 40 years, and Mahanandin, 43 years. Thus there will rule 10 Shishunaga kings, and their dynastic hold shall continue for 163 years. Some contemporaneous dynasties will be Panchalas, Haihayas, Kalingas, Ashmakas, Maitalas, Sharasenas, and Vritihotras. 6. The Nandas. The last Shishunag king, Mahandin or Mahananda, will have a son from a Shudra woman. He will be called Mahapadmananda, and he will try to exterminate all the Kshatriya kings. All the kings thereafter will be of Shudra origin. This powerful king, Mahapadmananda, will bring the entire earth under his rule, and will reign for 88 years. He will have 8 sons, of whom Sukalp will be the eldest. His name, according to other sources, will be Nanda. His 3 sons will succeed Mahapadmananda and shall rule for 12 years. Then a Brahmin named Kautilya Chanakya will uproot the Nandas. After the Nandas have ruled for 100 years, the Mauryas will assume the authority and shall rule the earth. 7. The Mauryas. Having caused the fall of the Nanda dynasty, Kautilya will appoint Chandragupta as the king of Magadha. He will rule for 24 years, followed by Bindusar, who shall rule for 25 years. He will be succeeded by Ashoka, who will rule for 36 years. Ashoka's son Kunala will reign for 8 years, and he will be succeeded by his son Bandapalita, who shall rule for 8 years. Then his heir Indrapalita will rule for 10 years. He will be succeeded by Devavarmana, who will be the king for 7 years. Then his son Shatadanu will rule for 7 years. Thus the 9 Maryas will rule the earth for a total of 137 years. They will be replaced by Pushyamitra, who shall establish the rule of his Shunga dynasty. 8. The Shungas. Pushyamitra, the general of the Brihadrathas, will eliminate his king and establish a new dynasty called the Shungas. Pushyamitra will rule for 36 years. His son Agnimitra will rule for 8 years, and then the lineage will progress in the following way. Vasujeshta 7 years, Vashumitra 10 years, Andraka 2 years, Pulindaka 3 years, Gosha 3 years. Then another general of the same family, Vajramitra, will be the king for 9 years. He will be replaced by his son, Bhagavata, who shall rule for 32 years. The last ruler of this dynasty will be the Devabhumi. Thus 10 Shunga kings will rule the earth, combinedly for 112 years. Then the ruler of the earth shall be the Kanvas. 9. The Kanvas. This dynasty is also called Kanvayana. Its first ruler will be Vasudeva, who would be the minister of the displaced Shunga king Devabhumi. He shall establish the rule of his Kanvayana dynasty. Vasudeva will rule for 14 years, and then he will be succeeded by his son Narayana, who will reign for 12 years. His successor will be his son Shushamana, who shall rule for 10 years. The Kanvayana will be the Brahmin rulers. They will rule for 45 years. They shall be righteous and fair kings, and they would be displaced by the Andhras. 10. The Andhras. The Andhras will be the tribal rulers. The Andhra Simukha and his fellow tribesmen will be the servants of the Kanva king Shushamana, but the Andhras will eventually remove the Karva king Shushamarva to set up their own dynasty on the throne of authority. After Shimukha having ruled for 23 years, his younger brother Krishna will rule for 10 years. He will be followed by his younger brother Sri Shatakarni, who shall rule for 18 years. Then the dynastic rule will progress the following way. Purnotsanga 18 years, Skandastambi 18 years, Shatakarni 56 years, his son Lambadara 18 years, Apilaka 12 years, Megasvati 18 years, Svati 18 years. The last ruler of this dynasty will be Skandavati, who shall rule for only 7 years. Then another branch of this dynasty, spearheaded by Swatikarna, will reign for 3 years. The name of this king will be Mrigendra. He will be replaced by Kuntala Svetkarna, who shall rule for 8 years. Then the dynasty shall progress this way. Kuntala, Pulamavi, 36 years. Arishtakarna, 25 years. Hala, 5 years. Mantalaka, 5 years. Purikshena, 21 years. Sundara Shatakarni, 6 months. Shivasvati, 28 years. Gantaputra, 21 years. Puloma, 28 years. Shivashri Puloma, 7 years. Shivaskanda Shatakarni, 3 years. Vijaya, 6 years. Chandashri Shatakarni, 10 years. The last ruler of this dynasty will be Pulamavi, who will reign for 7 years. Thus in all there will be 30 kings of this dynasty who will rule the earth for 460 years. 11. Vidisha dynasties. Vidisha, being a great power center and a renowned city of central India near modern Indore, also had many able rulers who held their sway in this part of the world. According to the Bhavisya Purana, this center will be established by Bogin, the son of the Naga king Shesha. He will conquer the cities of his enemies and will bring much glory to his Nag tribe. He will be replaced by Sadachandra. Chandransha will be the 3rd king of this dynasty. He will be succeeded by Dhanadharmana, who shall be displaced by Vangara. Vangara will be succeeded by Bhutananda. At the termination of the Shungas dynasty, Shishunandi will reign. His younger brother will be Nandiyasha, and 3 more kings will reign after him. Nandiyasha's daughter's son, will be Shishuka and will rule in Purika, modern Puri. Vindyashati's valiant son will be Pravira, and he will rule over the city of Kanchanaka for 60 years. He will also conduct many sacrifices, and his 4 sons will establish separate kingdoms. 12. Local and other dynasties, 3rd century AD. After listing the prominent dynasties separately, the Bhavisya Purana records the future existence of many other dynasties. When the kingdom of the Andhras has come to an end, there will be kings belonging to the lineage of their servants. There will be 7 Sriparvatya Andhras, 10 Abhira kings, 7 Gardabins, and 18 Shakyas. There will also be 8 Yavanas, 14 Tusharas, 13 Murundas, and 11 Manas. The Shirparvatiya Andhras will last for 52 years, the 10 Abriha kings for 67 years, the 7 Garbadins for 72 years, 8 Shakyas for 183 years, 8 Yavanas for 87 years. The Purana claims that earth shall be ruled by Tusharas for 7,000 years. The 13 Murundas, along with lowly Mlechchas, will enjoy the earth for 200 years. The 11 Manas will enjoy it for 103 years. Then they are finally overthrown by time. There will be the Kilakila kings. After the term of the Kilakilas is over, King Vindyashakti will rule strongly for as many as 96 years. When the family of the Vindyakis has passed away, there will be 3 Valika kings. Supratika and Nabhir will enjoy the rule of the earth for 30 years. Shakyamana will be the Mahishi's king. In Mekala, 7 kings will reign for 70 years. In Koshala, there will be 9 very powerful and wise kings, renowned as the Megas. All the rulers of Nishada, born in the family of Nala, will be valiant and very powerful, and shall exist till this Manvantara ends. Among the valiant Magadhas, the most chivalrous king shall be Vishvashpani. Overthrowing all Kshatriya kings, he will make kings from classes other than the Kshatriya class. Kaivartas, Panchakas, Pulindas, and the Brahmanas. In various countries they shall be established as the rulers. Vishvashpani shall be as powerful in battle as Vishnu is reputed to be. Having propitiated the gods through his great deeds, he will retire to the bank of the holy Ganga to end his life. Following his death he shall stay in Indra's realm for many years. The Champavati city shall be ruled by 7 Naga kings. Then they would have Mathura as their capital. With the advent of the Gupta dynasty, all the territories along the banks of the Ganga, via Prayag, Saketa, and Magadha shall fall under their control. Kings born from Manidanya will enjoy the territories of the Naishadas, Yadukas, Shaishitas, and Kalatakoyas. The Devarakshita will enjoy the rule over the Koshala, Andhras, Pandras, Tanraptas, and the charming city of Champa. In the Kalinga region, Guha will be the king, while Mahishas and the inhabitants of the Mahendra mountains shall rule the hilly terrain. The Shudras and outcasts shall rule over Sarashtras, Avantyas, Abiras, Arbudas, and Malava. The rivers Sindhu, Indus, Chandrabhaga, Chenab, and Kunti shall be ruled by such destitute people. All these kings will be lacking in grace. They shall be untruthful and of unrighteous conduct. The rationale behind the mention of these dynasties in the Bhavisya Purana. Apparently, these references may seem to be filling the pages of the Purana without any relevance. However, it is not the case. They have a wide-ranging significance, for they help in pinpointing any specific occurrence of a historic event. Counting backwards on the basis of the generations past, we can get the actual date of any famous historical event. Take, for example, the date of ascertaining the actual period of occurrence of the Mahabharata. As a matter of fact, there are 3 ways of doing it, with one of them being going by the genealogies given in the Purana. The others are using the astronomical data on the position of the nakshatras mentioned in the Mahabharata. But probably because of later interpolation, which were freely introduced, such information tends to be mutually inconsistent and yields quite divergent dates like 3140 BC, 3137 BC, 1400 BC, 1197 BC, and 1151 BC, etc. The second approach is to date the Kurukshetra War on the basis of the astronomical traditions of famous astronomers like Aryabhata and Varahamihira. According to the Aryabhata tradition, the Kali Yuga began in the year 3102 BC, so by this date the Mahabharata War should have taken place around the year 3138 BC. But the Varahamihira tradition places the war in 2449 BC. However, the scholars won't accept both of the traditions as a war consuming as many or nearly 40 million men couldn't have taken place then. This confusion makes the genealogical charts given in the Bhavisya Purana as the only relevant means to determine the date of the Mahabharata. From accounts left by the Greek historian Megasthenes, one can match it with the period when the Maurya dynasty's Chandragupta existed. Taking that period as the reckoning factor, with the help of the genealogical accounts given in this Purana, taking 20 years for one generation, one can reasonably come close to ascertaining the war's occurrence. Going through the process, the scholars believe that the war should have taken place about 5,000 years ago. Hence the relevance of the dynasties mentioned in the various Puranas, particularly the Bhavisya Purana, which is believed to be comprising the most reliable historical account. Apart from these calculations which are made by the records mentioned in the Bhavisya Purana, there are also such details in it as are prevalent as customs in the society of the devotees. One of them is the recital of Sri Satyanarayan Katha. The devout have this recital made by the learned priest, which is made as a means of thanksgiving on some desired endeavor's successful completion, or it is also done in anticipation of and prayer for the successful completion of the long-cherished project. The Satyanarayan Katha also forms the part of this Bhavisya Purana which is given ahead in details. Chapter 5, the Satyanarayan Katha and Other Tales. This Katha's recital is a ceremonious event. The priest and listeners should be duly invited at the given time, and place in following its completion within scheduled time. The prasadam is also distributed among them. The Bhavisya Purana says that Satyanarayan Katha is bliss-giving and distress-removing for all. Those who have some specific desire, or those who want to thank God for granting one the completion of the desired objective, have this Katha ceremoniously recited. As part, there is no Katha, but it tells the consequences of one's going back upon one's word. Before starting this Katha, the following mantra should be chanted by the person, or by his priest on his behalf for 108 times. The mantra is Om Namo Bhagavate Nitya Satya Tsevaya Ditmaha. While chanting this mantra, the mind should be concentrated on Lord Narayan, Vishnu, and after having chanted the mantra, the host should say, Chatu Padartha Gatre Cha Namastubhyam Namo Namah, and offer flowers before the idol of Lord Narayan or his representative, the Shaligram. The origin of this custom was started by the experience of a Brahmin who was distressed with difficulties. He had happened to hear in a recitation that he who heard the Satyanarayan Katha's glories with rapt attention would have all his troubles eliminated. So he decided that on the following day, if he got enough money, he would devote it to the worship and obedience of Lord Satyanarayan. As good luck would have it, he really got much more money than he had ever expected. Immediately he came home and told his wife about his exhilarating experience. She immediately advised her husband to hold this Katha ceremony with great fanfare. In that recital they invited all their friends and relatives. After the Katha he told them how he came about holding this Katha ceremony. All were very much impressed, and they all decided to follow suit in case of distress. This is how this custom commenced. Continuing the narration, the Sutaji told that similarly had been the experience of Abil, Sudama, the friend of Lord Krishna, and his tale of sudden prosperity known to all. Then he told the tale of Raja Chandrachuda, who had fallen on evil days, and after his holding the ceremony of Satyanarayan Katha, he was relieved of his distress. Similarly was the tale of Lilavati. His father was a sea trader, and once he was coming back home on a ship, he found on the shore a gathering of people devoted to worship. Upon inquiry, he learnt that they all were listening to the katha of Satyanarayan. He also promised to hold such a recital provided he reached home well. Till that time he had no issue. Reaching home safely, he held the katha. With the result, he also got a daughter named Lilavati. As she came of age, he got her married to a young trader who was his business partner. Now the trader was passing life very happily, but he had forgotten to hold the katha of Satyanarayan after his daughter's marriage. One day, while he was returning from his long voyage with his boat full of costly gems and gold, the boat was held by the king of the shore, and both the father-in-law and the son-in-law were put in jail. Now this was a bolt from the blue. They were held guilty of the theft that they had never committed. While languishing in the jail, the father-in-law realized that he had not kept his word of holding the ceremony of the Satyanarayan Katha recital following the birth of his daughter. But since they could not attend the Katha recital held at the shore, they were eventually released from the jail, and they happily reached their home. As soon as they reached there, they held the Katha ceremony to the great delight of their family. Ever since then, the Brahmin family lived happily. This way, according to the Purana, holding the Katha ensures everybody's welfare. Other tales of historical significance. As we have already hinted, the Bhavisya Purana contains many future tales. Many of them are of great historical significance. A few of them are given below. 1. Prithviraj Chauhan and Jaichanda. Narrating the happenings that occurred in the Jambudvipa, Sutaji recounted the following story. In the medieval times, there was a king of Indraprastha. His name was Anangapal. He was very powerful, and he had almost the entire central part of India under his command. But he had no male issue. When he performed the yagya for getting a male issue, instead of a son, he got 2 daughters. Their names were Chandrakanta and Kirtimalini. When they came of age, he got them married to the kings of Kanyakubja and Ajmer, respectively. The name of the king of Ajmer was Samashwara. At this time only, there was a Brahmin named Jaisharma. When he saw the king Anangapal donating out his affluence in his daughter's marriage, in order to get them, he started to observe great penance in the Himalayas. There he quitted his mortal coil and took his next birth as the son of Chandrakanta. Later on, he became famous as Jaichanda. Meanwhile, Kirtimalini had 3 sons, and the middle one was named Prithviraj Chauhan. He was partially adopted by Raja Anangapal and became the ruler of Indraprastha, Delhi, following Anangapal's death. Prithviraj was a robust person with a grand personality. He was very brave and chivalrous, and soon became the overlord of the entire region around Delhi. Meanwhile, Jaichanda, another grandson of Anangapal from his daughter's side, continued to nurse an ill will against Prithviraj for having usurped his maternal grandfather's, Anangapal's, entire kingdom. He wrote a letter to Prithviraj demanding half of the kingdom of Raja Angapal as his due share. He also warned that should this demand be not met, it would result into a fierce confrontation. But Prithviraj pompously replied that in order to neutralize the rogues of the lunar dynasty, he had already collected an army of 20 lakh soldiers. He also wrote that on the contrary, since he was the overlord of all of India, it was incumbent upon Jaichanda to pay him the tax. When these kind of scathing letters continued to be exchanged, both the kings developed severe animosity between them. Meanwhile, the daughter of Jaichanda, Sanyogita, became nubile. She was a beautiful girl. She had also heard about Prithviraj. Also, she had known about Prithviraj's bravery and robustness. So when her Svayamvara was announced, Prithviraj made his trusted sleuth Priyabat arrange for Sanyogita's elopement by him. In the Svayamvara, in order to insult the Delhi ruler, Prithviraj, Jaichanda kept a statue of Prithviraj at the very gate of that huge assembly. But with the help of his pet sleuth Priyabat, Prithviraj not only reached the venue of the Svayamvara secretly, but also managed to hide himself behind his own statue. And as Sanyogita, who had heard about Prithviraj reaching the place, neglected all the invited princes and kings and put the garland around around the neck of the statue, totally defying her father's wishes. Prithviraj quickly came out from the hiding place and, carrying Sanyogita in his hands, jumped on his ready horse and sped away with her. This created a furor in Kanyakubja, and Jayachanda asked his army to follow and capture Prithviraj. But Prithviraj had also made his army ready, and a fierce battle ensued between his forces and the forces of Jayachanda. The battle lasted for 6 days, but eventually Prithviraj managed to reach Delhi with Samyogita. Jayachanda was defeated, and this event made Prithviraj the effective overlord of all of India, to the great chagrin of Jayachanda. It was he who eventually, out of sheer jealousy, invited the Mlechcha ruler, Shahabuddin Gauri, to have Prithviraj defeated. This led to the establishment of the Mlechcha Raj in India. Apart from the story of Prithviraj, the Bhavisya Purana also recounts many stories of the earlier medieval India, including that of the famous Alha, Alada, and Malakan, called Balakana in a casual way. These stories are too clumsily mentioned to deserve their reference here, as apparently they form the part of the interpolations added subsequently to this Purana. In fact, it mentions about many stories of the medieval India in a most haphazard manner. Prominent ones are related to the birth of Ramanujacharya, Shankaracharya, Varahamihira, even that of Tamerlung, Akbar, and Aurangzeb, Vikram, and Vitala, etc. They are not being covered here for the simple reason as they are too clumsily written and contain reference to certain historically proved events in a most apocryphal manner. Not only they were interpolated, but it appears that those who recklessly interpolated these tales had no knowledge of editing either. The sun god and his 12 forms. While most of the Puranas deal with Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the Bhavisya Purana is quite unusual as it deals with the sun god in a detailed way. It says that the sun god Surya manifests himself in 12 different aspects. These are called 12 Adityas, and their names are Indra, Datta, Parjanya, Pusha, Tvashta, Aryama, Bhaga, Vivaswava, Vishnu, Amshu, Varuna, and Mitra. In these forms, the sun god discharges his responsibilities in the following way. As 1. Indra, the sun god rules all the gods, and he is the divine king. 2. Datta, the sun god creates all beings. 3. Parjanya, the sun god resides in the clouds and causes rain over the earth. 4. Pusha, the sun god exists in all food grains and provides nourishment to all the live beings. 5. Tvashta, the sun god in this form dwells in all the trees, herbs, and vegetation. 6. Aryama, the sun god in this form dwells in wind and supplies live breath to all. 7. Bhaga, the sun god in this form dwells in the earth and in the bodies of all living beings. 8. Vivasvana, the sun god in this form remains existent in the fire and aids in cooking of food. 9. Vishnu, the sun god in this form destroys the enemies of God and upholds all that is righteous. 10. Amshu, the sun god in this form is present in all that allow the growth of life and that which delights the beings. 11. Varuna, the sun god permeates water and is the sustainer of life. 12. Mitra, the sun god exists on the banks of the river Chandrabhaga. This is the spot where Shambha constructed the deity's temple. He who realizes that this way the sun god permeates every bit of the universe lives as close to him as being a part of himself. In each of the 12 months, one form of the sun god dwells. They are the following: as Vishnu in the month of Chaitra, as Aryama in Vaishakha, as Vivasvana in Jyeshtha, as Amshu in Ashada, as Parjanya in Sharvan, as Varuna in Bhadra, as Indra in Ashvin, as Datta in Kartika, as Mitra in Agrahayana, as Pusha in the month of Pasha, as Bhaga in Magha, and Tvashta in Falguna. This way each month has a different sun god's manifestation. In fact, these 12 names are nothing but names of the sun god, Surya. Apart from these, the sun god is also known as Aditya, Shavita, Mahira, Arka, Prabhakara, Martanda, Bhaskara, Banu, Chitrabhanu, Divakar, and Ravi. This Purana also defines the intensity of each of the 12 suns, measuring it by the number of days. 1. Vivashvana, 1400 rays. 2. Aryama, 300 rays. 3. Amshu, 1500 rays. 4. Parjanya, 1400 rays. 5. Varuna, 1400 rays. 6. Vishnu, 1400 rays. 7. Indra, 1200 rays. 8. Datta, 1100 rays. 9. Mitra, 1500 rays. 10. Pusha, 1000 rays. 11. Bhaga, 1500 rays. 12. Tvashta, 1000 rays. This is apparent that Aryama is the weakest sun. Perhaps this is the sun which shines in the month between the 15th of October and the 15th of November, particularly in the zodiac sign Libra. Curiously enough, this is not the case by this Purana, as, according to the sun gods listed above, Aryama shines in Vaishaka when astrologically the sun is believed to be in Aries, its exaltation sign. This confusion has resulted due to various interpolations that the Purana is believed to have suffered. The sun's chariot. It has been vividly described. It is, by this Purana, believed to have been wrought by Brahma himself. The name of the charioteer is Aruna. Some accounts call this charioteer to be Anuru. The chariot is drawn by 7 golden horses. Their names are Gayatri, Trishtupa, Jagati, Anushtupa, Pamkti, Vrihati, and Ushnika. In this chariot, 2 Adityas, 2 sages, rishis, 2 Gandharvas, 2 Apsaras, 2 Nagas, serpents, and 2 Rakshasas always ride. Specifying as to who rides when, the Purana gives the following details. In the months of Chaitra and Vaishaka, the 2 Adityas are Datta and Aryama, the sages Pulastya and Pulaha, the Gandharvas Tumburu and Narada, the Apsaras Kritastali and Punjikasthala, the Nagas Vashuki and Kachcha, and the Rakshasas are Heti and Prabeti. In the months of Jeshta and Ashada, the Adityas are Mitra and Varuna, the sages Atri and Vishishta, the Gandharvas Haha and Huhu, the Apsaras Manaka and Sahajanya, the Nagas Takshaka and Ananta, Sheshnaga, and the Rakshasas Purashaya and Buddha. Similarly, in the months of Sharvana and Bhadra, the Adityas are Indra and Vivashvana, the sages Angira and Brigu, the Gandharvas Vishvavashu and Ugrasena, the Apsaras Pramalochana and Anulochana, the Nagas Elapatra and Shankapala, and the Rakshasas Sharpa and Vyagra. In the months of Ashvina and Kartika, the Adityas are Parjanya and Pusha, the sages Bharadvaja and Gautama, the Gandharvas Chitrasena and Ruchi, the Apsaras Vishvachi and Gritachi, the Nagas Vishruta and Dhananjaya, and the Rakshasas Apa and Vata. The same way in the months of Agrayana and Pusha, the Adityas are Amsha and Bhaga, the sages Kashyapa and Kratu, the Gandharvas Chitragada and Urnayu, the Apsaras Purvachitli and Urvashi, the Nagas Tarkshya and Arishtanemi, and the Rakshasas Avashpurja and Vidyut. Lastly, in the months of Magha and Falguna, the Adityas are Tvashta and Vishnu, the sages Jamadagni and Vishwamitra, the Gandharvas Dhritarashtra and Varcha, the Apsara Tilatama and Ramba, the Nagas Kadraveya and Kambakshvatava, and the Rakshasas are Brahmapreta and Yakshapreta. The Purana ends with the assertion that those who read or listen to this Purana with rapt attention have their sins dissipated and they earn enough merit to dwell in the divine realms.